What Day of the Death, for what I know and the interpretation that I get from having witnessed the tradition of my village, Tepoztlan especially, and the things that I have tried to read in general about the history in Mexico. I think it's the only country that we celebrate death in this form, honoring our ancestors. So the celebration is as old as the ancestors here, as the Aztecs, as the Mayans, as the any other tribes in Mexico. They celebrated Day of the Death, and I think it's important to explain a little bit the philosophy behind that. Aztecs and Mayans and all the other tribes in Mexico, they didn't have a concept of death. For them, I don't think even existed the word death. I think it was more the transformation philosophy. They didn't have also a concept of hell and heaven. Their spiritual devotion was more towards the elements, and the elements, they were always kind of personalized, more like spirits. So the water element, it was one kind of a spirit. The air element was another kind of a spirit. The fire also was another spirit. And depending of the presence of the element, it also had their own personality. So Earth was like the biggest mother and the biggest spirit. The other thing that we need to understand, or that was important to know, is that the Aztecs and all the other people, the most important thing was corn. So worshipping corn, the spirit of corn, and the spirit of earth, and the spirit of the other elements, it was very important. The celebration was all year long. We have certain dates now, like Day of the Death, But Day of the Death is it's part of a celebration that began, let's say, in the month of May. In the month of May, they worship the rain. They call the rain. They call the spirits of the rain, the wind, to create a harmonious relationship with the elements, and we, the humans, to have good harvest, good food. And in this case, the corn was the most important thing for Mexicans. So they believe was that every single one who dies goes straight to earth. But every single one who dies had a mission. And the mission was that every single ancestor goes to earth to help Mother Earth to be fertile, and also to be like the intermediates between we, the humans, and Mother Earth, so we could have good life, abundant, and the life would continue. For them, it was important for life to continue to be expanded, and in order to experience it in a beautiful way, there's nothing better than to have plenty of food. In those times, was not important, having a house or anything else. There were no possessions. It was a very spiritual attitude what they had. Here in Tepoztlan, the first celebration and gratitude is the 28th of September. The 20th of September, the corn is fresh, it's already ready to be eaten, but it's not completely dry, you know. So we have fresh corn. And the belief for our ancestors was that every single yellow flower or orange flower that comes out from earth is the spirit of our ancestors coming out to see if we are taking good care of the corn. You know. So in the past, the yellow flowers were taken, were cut off from the fields, and they were taken to the plantation, from the corn plantation, and they were put in all the corners. So, with the belief, the honor that all these ancestors, they need to see our plantation that is doing healthy, and the best way to celebrate was to cut the corns right there in the plantation, make a fire, and cook the corns right in the plantation, and everybody who helped working, including the spirits of our ancestors, they were invited to eat them right in the plantation. Some people, they go a little like deeper into the celebration, and they take one of those flowers and cook and boil the corns with those flowers, just with the idea that the spirits need to go into the corn, so they could know that how good the corn was, that they helped with Mother Earth to grow it. So that is like the first celebration of gratitude. Then the second celebration of gratitude is now, Day of the Death, and again, the corn in this time, it's not fresh anymore, but it's not dry anymore, So now with this corn that we have now in this day, you could make many other dishes. You could make, I don't know how to call it in English, but esquites, we call them, which is a kind of a soup with some chili peppers and some epazote, and nowadays they put some mayonnaise, put some cheese, put some lemon, and that's one thing. There's another kind of bread also too that they make, and there's also two tamales, of course. Actually, right now my mother's cooking for her ancestors, and they're made today to put an offering tonight, and the offering again is to call all the ancestors who had gone into earth, work with Mother Earth, and now it is time to honor them and to be grateful to them by cooking what they help to grow, and show them that we have abundance of it, and put it on the offering. The ritual goes like this. You decorate your altar. You put some yellow flowers, you put a path of petals of flowers all the way out to your street, that with the belief that the ancestors will come, and the aroma of the flowers will guide them where the food is, and where the altar is. So once you have your flowers, you light a candle. You call your ancestors, the ancestors that they are more lovable, that they're closer to you, because you cannot call everyone, right? At least in my family, we had great grandparents, and aunts and uncles, and so my mother, she only takes, calls the ones that they are more important. Of course, you see that she has 20 candles, because she can't discriminate some of the ancestors. So, but for every candle, you call the name of your ancestor, inviting the ancestor to come and to show your humbleness and telling them and asking for forgiveness, that you are giving them something that is not so rich, but is this what they have, and that they are welcome to come and eat. So that's the first candle. Okay, then they start putting the things, the food. Nowadays they cook what is more what the once alive, we know what was the dish that was more favored from our ancestors. And in general, there's mole, green, red, and tamales, and tlaxcales, and all kinds of food. After that, a glass of water is given to them, a dish of salt is put on the altar, and flowers, of course. Those are the three things. If it's a family, we sit around, okay, the altar, and it just comes naturally. The family starts talking about the ancestors, and the mother or the father, they start remembering each one of the ancestors, or what the last thing one of the ancestors said, in life, and before you know, it turns into some release, emotional release, because sometimes there are beautiful things beautiful memories that they come out from our ancestors, and other times there are not so beautiful memories, and other times there is something emotional that we, have, and we can see, especially the older ones, the ones that start talking, I remember my father when this and that, I didn't treat him well, so then they start asking for forgiveness right there on the altar, and the other most, I think, one of the most valuable things that I've seen that happens, okay, is that the human alive, they start asking for help. So the ancestors become like the ones who interfere within our reality and their spiritual world. So they could ask the grandfather, grandfather, please, interfere for me with God, and I ask you for forgiveness to ask you this in this moment, but I won't see you until next year. So they ask him, so please, that the daughter or our business is not doing very well, so you are closer to God. Please ask God to give you the opportunity to interfere for us, and make things work for us, or whatever. Yeah, they use the moment to not to just give, but also to ask, and I think that's the most touching thing, and of course, there are many stories around, whether it is the collective consciousness and influence that happens, but it always happens, one of the stories, personal stories here, last year we were out of the town, just like to one day before day of the death, and Sylvia had a cold. Sylvia's my wife. She had a cold, and we haven't gone to the market to buy things, because this is another thing. Traditionally, every food has to be in new dishes. The milk, the mole, the rice, or the chicken has to go in a new dish. Sylvia was feeling sick, and she didn't look she was getting any better. So I said to her, I think your ancestors are holding on to you, because they're not seeing that you're moving to put an altar for them, and and she said, oh, no, I don't think they care, so well, I think we have to do something. So anyway, she got the enough energy to said, okay, let's go to the market. So we went to the market and bought the flowers, the candles, the bread. It's a special bread that they make, and and all the decoration. We came back. We started doing our altar, And as soon as she called her father and her mother, it was like kind of automatic, like magic, Her cold was gone. So those kind of little stories you find in every single house if you go at the right moment when they're putting the altar, and they everybody talks nicely to the ancestors and have nice memories, and some of them they do say, they do also have something to say to their ancestor, not so nice and not so pleasant. Some of them they put the candles and they said, "Granddad or father, I'm putting you candle, but I want to remind you that I was not so happy the way you treat me, when you were alive," or something like that. And the next thing is that after that, after everybody had put the altars, the way to celebrate is the children. The children hear the tradition. They make their own pumpkin. It's a kind of a pumpkin, They take the inside, They make a little figures, the face, and some of them they're very artistic. They put a candle inside, and they go out on the streets asking for a treat, a treat for my skeleton or something like that, So they go house by house and asking for that, And that again, the explanation of that is that this is a representation of all the ancestors that they have no families, that they are waiting for them. So they are allowed to go house by house and ask for some of the treat. Nowadays, the treat is for the children alive, right? So they give them candies. But in my days, we used to get, a tamal, some rice pudding, or real food, because they believe was that we are representing in this, in this pumpkin, a real spirit is possessed the pumpkin, okay, and that's the spirit that you take along to ask for a treat, because they don't have anybody that will wait for them. And then there are also stories, that they go along. Okay, one of my stories that I remember is that in one of the nights, maybe I was 9 years old, 8 years old, and we were in group, children in group, and as I said before, we had not many cars in the time, so we have no electric light in the streets. So our only light we had it was from our pumpkin, and in one of the streets we had to cross a river. It's dry, a dry river. We had to cross it, and when we got there, we couldn't cross it because there were 5 big pigs laying down in the middle of the street, and every time we tried to cross, whether maybe because we were children, we were afraid of these big pigs, and they were really big, So we, the children, we decided to walk back, and as we got to the corner, our parents who were behind us, they said, "What's the matter? Why are you coming back?" And we said, "Oh, it's because there are some pigs on the street that they, in the middle of the river, they're laying down there, and they don't let us pass." So they come with us to the river, okay, and sure enough, they see these big pigs, and one of the adults, he says, "Wow, but these pigs, they are not normal." Now, Tepoztlan has been known as the village of healers for thousands of years. even before it was conquered by the Aztecs. And actually, it was conquered by the Aztecs for the reason that the people from Tepoztlan knew a lot about remedies, natural remedies, and spiritual remedies, and we had healers everywhere. I still had that experience of being healed by different healers around the town that I was taken by my parents. So, at the time, one of the biggest spiritual news, sort of say, is that from time to time we didn't have radio or TV, so the news that we had were the news that was happening in the town with the people in the town, and I heard, like, from my mother. My mother was the one who gave the news when my father came back from work, and I heard many times, like, my mother saying to my father, "Well, do you know Doña Maria? She decided to become a healer, and she's studying." Now, for what I understood at that time, that to study to become a healer, it had different stages, and like in 3 stages. And the second stage, it was to learn how to become to your animal totem, how to have the ability to turn into your animal totem, And the reason why to become that animal is to know the nature of that animal, so you could connect and talk with nature, and that will be your gift as a healer. So that period, in Spanish we call Nahual, which is Nahual. It means is the healer in an animal form. So here we have, back to my story, 5 pigs, big like this, the adults that they live with this philosophy, and some of them he says, these are not pigs. These are nahuales, And so as soon as he says that, he calls all the adults, male, and he says, let's put our hearts face up, because they believe that you break the how do you say, the enchanted of the animal, of the Nahual, okay, and they don't have no other choice than to turn into humans, So that's what he says. He tells to all the male men and says, put your hat upside down, let's get these buggers, that they bothering, And as soon as he said that, it was, I don't know, now I don't remember if it was my imagination or we were so excited that it really happened. I don't remember exactly, but the pigs stood up and ran.
Prefiero así que hacerte